Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of the Mind Behind right here on Love Wrestling. Whether you're tuned in on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live, thank you for taking the time an hour before tonight's NXT to find out a little bit more about not only somebody who is a great individual, but someone doing great things in professional wrestling. And man, the individual I've got here, I may as well just say hi, Rhys, rather than like delaying and building up. Rhys has done pretty well everything in pro wrestling, whether it be podcasting, whether it be articles, whether it be unboxing videos, everything in between. Man, you have quite literally done it all. So I'm psyched to talk to you. It's good to have you on here. Welcome to Love Wrestling. How are you doing?
Yo, thank you, Spencer. It's absolutely awesome to be here. I do have to say, though, I thought we were being joined by another guest. I thought you said that JP was going to be making an appearance.
Well, JP might make an appearance, but he's actually he's taking a nap in front of his favorite window, so he might make either a visual or an audio appearance, I suppose, if anybody he doesn't happen to like walks by the front door. But we're gonna hope against that. We're gonna hope that we don't have any puppy delays or delays of the otherwise here on the show, because, like I said, man, if we've got half an hour to talk, there is a lot to fit into it. And if you guys are in the comments right now, feel free to throw your thoughts in there. We've got some great people who have appeared here before. We have had some great people who have hopped in the comments, like the ever handsome JB. Good to see you, friend. What's good? Another edition of The Mind Behind is taking place. That, my friend, is what is good. Of course, feel free to throw your questions, comments, concerns in, but as I said, Rhys, we want to get a look inside the mind behind some great wrestling content, and you've put out a lot of it. So let's start right at the beginning. You and I have talked about what sort of inspired you to start. You've looked at BuzzFeed articles. You've looked at sort of those styles of articles before. But what was your first steps into actually creating content?
So it all kind of happened by accident. So basically, myself and my buddy Mike, we traveled away to watch a show, Progress Wrestling in Manchester. So we got a hotel room. We shared the hotel room, and Mike had to record his podcast with my other friend Matty that evening. I kind of got roped into being on the podcast, and that first time I was absolutely terrible. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I could not even listen back to that, but once I had a taste for it, I was hooked. And so somehow ended up becoming like a regular guest on this podcast. So did that podcast each week, which was basically any wrestling that wasn't WWE. So we did New Japan, MLW, Ring of Honor, Impact, NWA Power, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the website that we were doing this podcast for, that kind of expanded a bit. So they were doing a separate review podcast for every single show. So I kind of got my own show. It wasn't my own show because I had another guest, but the other guests changed a lot. I was the one constant there, reviewing SmackDown each week. And at that point then, it kind of went from just chatting with a group of friends to actually, it actually felt like I was kind of taking control of putting together this weekly content. And so I did that for a little bit, and it all changed when I was scrolling through YouTube and I found this channel called New Legacy. For anyone that doesn't know, these are a group of guys that play wrestling games and they just goof around. They have so much fun. And I saw that and I thought, I want to do that. So I spoke with
that looks neat. I'll take some of that, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So I spoke with Mike and Matty, my buddies from the podcast, and said, like, look, I found this. I think we should do this. And they were up for it. We started our own Fire Pro Wrestling, like a Fed on Twitch.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of crazy characters. Disco Cesaro, that was just Cesaro that just loved the party. Vladimir Putin and his MMA faction of the Young Buckskis, Nearly Headless Kofi Kingston, another fan favorite. And again, that was something that it all kind of happened by accident, really, because we just did that to pass the time. The lockdown had just started when COVID first broke out. And once I got a taste for streaming on Twitch, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I want to do this. Around the same time, then another game called TW 2020 came out,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow ended up getting the game developers to send me a free copy of the game in exchange for streaming the game and making YouTube content for it. So that's when I set up my own channel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my first stream, I was so nervous, but it went so well. I got so many viewers for it. I think people were just really excited to see the new game, because I didn't have a clue who half of them were, to be honest. But yeah, and ever since then, I've just got the bug, and yeah, that's where we find ourselves today, pretty much.
It's been one of my favorite questions to ask lately, so I'm going to ask you too, because you alluded to it. Have you gone back and listened to your first podcast in the last little bit?
So the first one, no. I don't really know where that first set of podcasts are. I probably could find them if I looked for them, but I've not gone seeking them out. That being said, something I do think that is really important is going back and watching your stuff, listening back to yourself. I know it's a block that a lot of people first get when they first start because they don't want to do it. But I think if you are to improve, you need to go back and watch or listen to yourself and be really critical of it, because when you're first starting out, you don't have a lot of listeners, so you're not getting that feedback elsewhere. Yeah. So it's really only up to yourself to get that feedback to improve.
Well, because usually even when you're getting the feedback, it's usually people who not through any malicious intent, but are people who want to support you. So it's hard for them to give you any sort of critical feedback, right? So you develop those bad habits and so on and so forth. I do want to touch on the fan comments. Sam, good to see you, friend. What's up? We are hosting another edition of The Mind Behind here on Love Wrestling. Thank you for hopping in, friend. And Ed, always great to see you, likely watching on the catch-up. So let's make sure we get your question in. Hopefully, if you're still tuned in. What is something about streaming that those who don't do it don't understand about the difficulties in doing it?
So the difficulty, one thing I said to you before we went on is just how much goes on behind us. So before every stream, I try to get everything set up and kind of plan out how it's all going to go. Of course, it doesn't always go to plan, but for me personally, I think I spend more time offline than I do online when I'm live working on stuff, whether that be adding new animations to the stream, adding sound alerts that the viewers enjoy, or even just thinking up ideas that, what do I want to do, and matching that, kind of in a Venn diagram with what do people want, and kind of finding that sweet spot where I can do something that I want to do, but also the fans, the viewers and whatnot will enjoy. So, yeah, just a lot of the stuff that, goes on kind of offline that you don't necessarily see.
Yeah, like the editing, like you said, the planning side of it is always difficult. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Has there ever been a time that something is absolutely, totally, 100% colossally blown up in your face?
The past 3 days, actually not yesterday.
Oh no!
The past 3 days before that, I only ever really stream maybe once a week, if I'm lucky. Yeah. Somehow this week streamed 3 days in a row, got 3 raids on each of those streams. Well, 1 raid on each of the streams. Actually, I had a second raid from yourself, Love Wrestling. But after each of those raids, something went wrong. My Wi-Fi cut out on one of them. On the other one, the game I was playing crashed and stopped working. On another one, one of the games didn't work because I didn't have the latest Windows update installed. Which is normally fine. If you're normally playing a game and something like that happens, it's not an issue. You can fix it. When you're
it's a 2-minute quick thing you got to vamp over. Yeah.
When you're live and you've just had a big influx of new viewers come in and everything's going wrong, and it's all happening so fast, and you have to kind of really, wing it under pressure. So, yeah, that's something that's I've had some recent experience with.
Don't worry. I can certainly feel your pain on that. I think it was now 3 weeks ago. I was on a Fightful stream and same thing ended up happening as my internet ended up completely crashing out, ruining the entire thing. But you live and you learn, right? Like if you're not having stuff like that happen, it doesn't make the good times feel as good, for, to put it as most cliche as I possibly can. You talk about going back, listening to your old stuff. Where do you feel you've improved the most?
So I've never been a natural speaker. That's always something I've really struggled with. I feel like kind of speaking publicly. Also, I tend to speak very slowly. So kind of speeding up the rate at which I speak has been something I've been working on. And it is getting there. I feel like there is still a long way to go there. It doesn't help that I have an accent. So sometimes it can be difficult if I say certain words to kind of understand what it is I'm saying. But yeah, that's definitely something. And again, with kind of the confidence to do it, but I don't necessarily feel like I've become more confident. I just kind of feel like when you're first starting, it's new to you. The more you do it, the more you just kind of get used to it. And, it just kind of becomes second nature. It just becomes more natural to you.
Yeah. It doesn't get any less, not like fear. Fear's the wrong word for it, but like you don't get any less of that. It just gets easier to jump in with both feet, right?
I mean, I still spend a good 10, 15 minutes before every stream just hovering over the go live button, like, oh, do I do it now? No, give it another 5 minutes.
I'll play one more test game to make sure I'm on top of it before I hop on. Sam hopping in and taking a little shot. That freeze was iconic. Yeah, maybe for you, and I'm glad that at least if I'm gonna completely screw something up, somebody got a laugh out of it, because let me tell you, you want to talk about fear, you want to talk about embarrassment. That's the definition right there. Rhys, how did you get into wrestling as a professional wrestling fan? Are you one of the lifelong fans? Are you someone like myself who maybe got into it a little bit later in life, or what's your first memory of professional wrestling?
So first memory was back when I was a kid. I used to go over to my friend's house to play football, which is, I guess you guys call it soccer, but football is its name. And then after training, then I'd go over to my friend's house and we'd just kind of play for a bit. And
yeah,
he had an older brother who had a bunch of WWF pay-per-views recorded on VHS. So sometimes we'd sneak in and get them and put them on. And also SmackDown 2, the video game. And so I'd never...
An excellent one, by the way.
Before. But watching these, Royal Rumble 2000, WrestleMania 16, and just wow, this is awesome. I love this. I knew from the start. Of course, there have been times where I kind of drifted away, and from about 2009 till about 2016 was a period where I watched very little wrestling. Around 2016, I started watching the WWE again, and I also watched TNA. So where I live in Cardiff in Wales, where Mark Andrews, who he currently wrestles for NXT UK. Actually, I'm wearing one of his shirts right now, but he also lives in Cardiff. I bumped into him in just the shop on the corner of my road. And I was like, dude,
very
Mark
cool.
Andrews from TNA. And he was like, yeah, but I do a load of other stuff as well. And he started telling me about Attack Wrestling, which is his and Pete Dunne's promotion, actually run shows in Cardiff. So I started going to that. And that opened up a whole world of independent wrestling that I'd never been exposed to before. And so since then, pretty much every week, I'd be traveling around the UK, going to various shows, going to, the likes of Progress, to Fight Club Pro, to if there was live wrestling running in the UK, I'd do what I could to get there.
Yeah. FNA, man. How difficult is it? I guess I've only ever been over to England itself. So traveling from Wales to go over to a show, a Progress show, is it a difficult thing to do? Or is it as easy as just flying over? How long's the flight?
So me and my buddy Mike, we used to catch the bus from Cardiff to London. Most Progress shows run in London.
Yeah.
So we'd catch the bus there, and that was a 4-hour bus journey. But it did only cost about £5 for the journey. So
easy. That's easy.
Yeah,
that's worth it. That's worth it 10 out of 10 times. That answers my question for me, but I was going to ask, like, what is the independent experience like out there? Like, obviously going out to Progress, hearing names like Mark Andrews and Pete Dunne involved in a promotion, obviously you'd have to think that it's a pretty high quality promotion, but what's your experience been like with it?
Oh, so that promotion in particular, Attack Wrestling, that is the most fun I think I've ever had watching wrestling. Like the show itself, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like a parody of what pro wrestling is. So, for example, they had a character that was called Creator Wrestler, which was a guy in a blue morph suit. And like, that wrestler's moves were like the rock bottom, the pedigree, the stone cold stunner, just like an actual Creator Wrestler from a video game. The most ridiculous characters. One of them was a guy that was, his gimmick was that he was an egg and that he'd walk the top rope, and it would be like, oh no, don't fall off the top rope or you'll crack.
Like Humpty Dumpty almost?
Exactly. Excellent. Later on, though, I found out that egg was actually Ricky Shane Page, and I had no idea at the time.
Excellent.
So yeah, they'd get all these, these big names that were kind of undiscovered at the time and get them all together and just have so much fun. And you could tell as well, the wrestlers were always having so much fun as well. There was about a 6-month storyline with ELP, and the whole storyline was that he thought Bigfoot was real, and he'd go around the crowd like looking for Bigfoot, going under a ring looking for Bigfoot. And the whole blow off to that was ELP versus Bigfoot in a death match, and Bigfoot came in and squashed him in about 5 minutes.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. If you've got a link for that, man, you've got to throw that to me when we're finished up on this one. But we've got about 15 minutes left here on the old Mind Behind. So if you guys have your questions, comments, and again, hopefully not concerns, but if there are any, they're likely directed my way. Feel free to throw them in. We know that there's a lot of wrestling programming out there, so we want to make sure if you guys have questions for some handsome faces on screen, you get them answered. Throw them our way. How'd you get into interviewing?
Oh, so again, that kind of happened by accident as well. Like the,
I feel like that should be like almost the subtitle, of this entire episode.
Exactly. Yeah. The site I was kind of podcasting for and writing articles for, and they also did interviews, and that wasn't something that that wasn't the reason I got. Well, in fact, like I didn't really mean to get involved with it at all. It just kind of happened. But they had, I think, an interview booked, like a slot was booked with Cara Noir, who is a wrestler here in the UK, current Progress champion. And they didn't have anyone that was available to do it. And I'd seen him wrestle a few times. I thought he was fantastic. And I thought, I could do this. Like, I know this guy. I can research him. I'll spend the weekend watching all of his best matches, because he had some really good matches with Pac, and he's a top wrestler in the UK. So I thought, I can do this, and I did that, and I really enjoyed that. So I tried to do a couple more anytime the opportunity came up.
Mm-hmm. Any particular favorites of yours?
So I've actually only done a handful. So that one was obviously very special for me, being the first one, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to completely botch it. Like, as it happened, I prepared about 10 pages of notes and had them laid out on the table so that whatever direction the conversation went, I'd have something to bring up about that. So, that one. Another one I did was with a wrestler here in the UK called Chuck Mambo, and I really enjoyed that one because he's just such a fun guy. Like, that was so fun just to chat with him and to hear some of his stories. Like, I had some really funny stories. And another one then, Ace Austin. That one I like that one because that was almost like the biggest name I had interviewed, because a couple of weeks later, then he was in the main event of Slammiversary, competing for the title. So for me, that was, that's my biggest one. So and also that one went really well. So that's one I'm kind of proud of as well.
Little pat on the back for yourself, Honor. Well, rightfully so, man. When you've got the opportunity to chat with great people, as here's the great opportunity for making a plug on my end, as I get the opportunity to do today with you, you may as well take them, right? Sam hopping back in on the comments end. Rhys, do you have a match from Progress you always go to watch back? And I'll even let you go with 3 if you don't want to narrow it down to one.
I mean, it's a tough one because all the Progress matches that I was there in person for most of them, so I don't tend to watch a lot of them back on demand. Typically, anything that Trent Seven was doing was always hilarious. Like, he goofed around a lot, and it was always highly amusing. Anything with the grizzled young veterans you now see on NXT. But yeah, they were always fantastic to watch. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to narrate. There was also another really great match with Volta and Tim Thatcher.
Oh man, that sounds delicious.
That was a good one, yeah.
What do you think of NXT UK? Because as an outsider, you hear a lot of, obviously, yeah, there's great matches. I've watched a lot of great matches, but you hear a lot of, they've raided the indies. They've maybe sort of quote unquote taken over, to make a bit of a pun with it, on the independent scene over in the UK. What's your opinion on that end?
I think so. So the product itself, I do find quite frustrating in that they have such a talented roster. Like, these were a lot of the people I was going to see week in, week out. So I know like the kind of matches they can put on, you know, how over they can get with the crowd. And the show is like a little bit stale, I find. So I guess that's kind of frustrating. But in general, there's 2 sides to this coin, really, because having NXT UK, like having that WWE presence in the UK, and you get the shows like the NXT UK takeovers, that's obviously really good because it's drawing more eyes to these names. I know, for example, I've been to Indy. There was a period where the NXT UK wrestlers could wrestle on indies, and there were people like you know, fans who were coming to the shows just to see Pete Dunne or like your Mark Andrews or whatever, because they'd seen them on NXT UK.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, there are positives to it, but at the same time, if you imagine you have a thriving scene and a lot of the top talent all disappear from it at once, it does leave the current scene a little bit deflated. But that being said, there are a lot of really top wrestlers here in the UK unsigned who I'm sure are ready and willing to step up to the plate. You know, like Cara Noir, you know, Dan Maloney's another one. He actually used to be signed to NXT UK, but
okay.
Yeah, he's another one that's been currently unsigned, making big waves over here.
I was gonna say you've transitioned me nicely, but you also sort of answered the question for me on if there were any up and comers in the UK, and in your opinion, that could maybe use a little bit more of an eye on them. But you covered me off. It sounds like you've done this interviewing thing once or twice before.
if I could just throw another couple out there, then there's
God forbid you talk about great pro wrestling on a pro wrestling show.
Chuck Mambo, the guy I mentioned earlier, who I interviewed, like, I think he's fantastic. He also has a tag team with a Kiwi wrestler called TK Cooper, and those 2 as a tag team, they're brilliant. Like, I think they could go on and be something big.
I love it. I'll have to check them all out. Again, you've got to be a little bit generous with the links on that end of things, but I hope you are. You're a good dude. As we get closer to wrapping her up here, my friend, I do want to touch on a couple of quicker hits with you. Do you have a preferred style of content? Obviously, right now you're streaming a lot on Twitch, but you're even doing a lot of different kinds of streams on that end. You've written articles, you've done interviews. Like I said off the hop, you've basically done the Johnny Cash route of it, of like, you've done everything, man, to paraphrase. So maybe what's your favorite? What do you prefer doing? What don't you like doing? Or where do you sort of stand on what you do?
So I'd say my favorite, I'm very much a perfectionist. So I enjoy doing live streams because of that interaction you get with the live audience. Like, I think that's really fun. A lot of people, when they first start streaming, that's something that, if they've been running a YouTube channel for years and then they start streaming, that's one of the first big differences they notice. So that's something I do really enjoy with streaming. Obviously, it's different doing live content than like my preferred type of content to make is video content, pre-recorded, because I can kind of edit it and polish it to make it until I'm completely happy with it. And then at that point, set it out into the wild. In terms of what I don't like doing, there's not a lot I don't like doing. I don't like live tweeting shows. I think sometimes you're kind of just, trying to think of something to say for the sake of it at times. Also, I do kind of find the same when you're doing, when I say you're doing, I mean when I'm doing like reviews of shows that have just happened, because I kind of need more time to digest everything what I've just seen. So again, sometimes I just kind of feel like I'm, saying things for the sake of just filling the air. So something that is, pre-recorded, I can edit it until it's until I'm really happy with it, and also something that does stand the test of time. So if you're doing like a review of a pay-per-view that's just happened, or a review of Raw that's just happened in a couple of days, that's irrelevant. So all the work you put into that, then it kind of gets forgotten about. I'd rather do something that doesn't necessarily have like a time or a date attached to it. So that, in years to come, you can go and watch it again, and it's just as relevant as it was when it was first uploaded. So again, that's something, like I mentioned earlier, the kind of planning that goes into it. That's something I try to get right at the start when I'm thinking of what to do.
Yeah. Is there anything you still want to do in the future that you haven't done?
Oh, absolutely. Like everything. I mean, in terms of targets, what I really want to do is grow my YouTube channel to get 1,000 subscribers. That's what I'm aiming for at the moment. I think currently neck and neck with you guys at Love Wrestling. So I guess we could have a bit of a race there.
All righty, we'll have to figure something cool out.
In terms of the end goal, again, I don't really know, because everything up until this point has just kind of been a series of, well, this happened, and then this happened because of that, and then I stumbled across this, and then this happened. And so I try not to, think about the end goal, because I know how quickly things can change, how you can end up going in a different direction to what you first planned. I mean, like I said, when I first started doing this, I was writing articles, and now written content is not something I even do anymore. So that's all in a space of a year that's changed. So
the way things can kind of swing,
plan too far ahead, because just things can change.
Plans change. I think we've heard that phrase once or twice in professional wrestling. Hey, Throwback, good to see you, my friend. How are things? Things are great. I am chatting with a good individual in professional wrestling, as I tend to do here on Tuesdays from 5 to about 5:30-ish Mountain Time. We're going to go over our match time today, as we tend to do. It happens. It's a good thing. Just hanging out, listening before your show. Always great to learn from others. Well, you were learning from one of the best of the best, but we're on some quick fire stuff. We're getting closer to wrapping it up here, but of course, I can't have you on here without asking what you're playing as far as video games go right now.
Oh, so at the moment, I am playing. So I've just been playing this brand new game called Goose Goose Duck, which it's basically Among Us.
Okay.
But everyone's a goose. But it's kind of like the creator of this game used to make mods of Among Us. So there's a whole load of new features that aren't in Among Us. Like there's a proximity chat. So when you're near someone, you can speak to them in the game.
Cool.
Like they can hear you and whatnot. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, like most of what I play is old wrestling games. I'd much prefer the older ones, the ones on the PS2 and the N64. Like, I just think they're so much better than some of the current games out there now. And a lot of what I play actually not the retail versions of the games, but modded versions of the games. So, for example, Here Comes the Pain, but with the current roster. Or
oh, cool.
Yeah, there's a whole kind of like video game modding community out there, which I only discovered in the past couple of months, actually. But
I only saw, I think it was the guys at Project Ditz. They were doing like a Pokemon Nuzlocke or something like that, like quite literally 3 days ago. So same thing. This whole like, dude, I'm bad at regular video games. Nonetheless, shit with extra difficulty thrown in.
But yeah, with Pokemon, that's something I want to do. I've just started. I'm about halfway through doing a run of Pokemon Yellow using only Mew, which is really easy, as you'd imagine, because Mew is so OP. But I'd like to get that done and then make that into a whole series of, trying to complete Pokemon Yellow using just this Pokemon and then ranking all the times. I think like when you're playing games and stuff, like anyone can kind of record themselves playing a game. If you're going to make content of it, you need something really unique and something that's going to stand out from everything else. So I think when you make those adjustments to the current games, like that's what everyone already knows and loves. But when you're adding that extra spin to it, you're making something unique out of something that's is already very familiar. One of my, in fact, like a couple of my most popular videos on my YouTube channel have been, I discovered this AEW mod of No Mercy. So No Mercy, one of, it's hailed as the greatest wrestling game ever. But it's got the current AEW roster on it. So I played a couple of games with that. A couple of days before Full Gear, I simmed the full cards for Full Gear and uploaded that.
I was there. I had a good time that day.
Oh, you were at the show?
Yeah, no, with when you were streaming Full Gear.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
Sometimes I get to hang out on Twitch. I don't just get to chat with good people on Twitch in a live format. But Throwback hopping in with a couple of comments for you. Do you think some of the wrestling games on the GameCube will hold up?
I think so. The GameCube is not something I've played a great deal of. I have seen a lot of GameCube content, though. I think there are certain modes. I think, is it WrestleMania 19, the revenge mode, where you kind of I'm not really sure what it works like, how it works. You kind of go through a kind of there's kind of missions backstage, and it's there's something really kind of unique. I think anything like that has a unique kind of story or a unique kind of mode to it, like they always hold up because there's nothing has replaced it. So that revenge mode, I think, is something that does still hold up. In terms of I'm trying to think what the other ones. Oh, actually no, tell a lie, I did play Day of Reckoning 2 recently, and that was very good. Yes,
I got to be honest, I'm of absolutely no use when it comes to any GameCube games, wrestling or otherwise. That was the proverbial skipped generation in the Love household. And then Throwback with one more. Do you like the old school Pokemon, or do you like this generation's version with the open world?
So I've not played anything above. I think I have only really played the first 3 gens, so I'd have to say old school. In fact, Gen 1, I pretty much know inside out, but then anything from Gen 2 onwards, I don't really know it too well. And it's been years since I have played them, so I can probably go back and play Gen 2 and Gen 3 again, and it'd be like almost the first time seeing it again.
Yeah, I could probably be in the same boat as you. Like, it's been a long time, so I'm hesitant to say that I could like do a blind walkthrough of Gen 1, but I'm certain I could come pretty close. Once you get to the rock tunnel, you're gonna have a tough time with the Flash. But that's,
I was amazed when I saw speedrunners of the game, and there's people who can complete Yellow in under 2 hours, which I thought that was insane.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I spend the first like 3 or 4 hours just grinding in Viridian Forest. Yeah, I wanted to say Vermilion. Viridian Forest, just like leveling everybody up so that, well, I guess yellow is a bit different. But usually I'd pick Charmander. You got to take Charmander, but you ain't having much luck with Brock if you don't raise someone else. But we'll talk about Pokemon, I'm sure, the next time I have you on the show, the next time I'm in your comment section on the stream or otherwise, friend. But like I said, we want to make sure people get to their other wrestling programming if they're going to take the time and choose us before their wrestling programming. And I always want to make sure, I leave time for my guests to plug where people can find their stuff. So, Rhys, I'm going to let you do that. And then one thing that I love to close the show out with is just put somebody over, for lack of a better way to put it. And I always say that I've got to find a better name for that segment because the people putting you over have already taken that name. But just shout someone out. It's a great name and it's a great show. Like, actually, I'll even just see if they're usually streaming around right now. They're not. We're gonna raid Speedball Bailey after this, but we're gonna do that after. We're gonna let you plug people, and then we're gonna let you plug yourself. And I'm even gonna give you the big screen to do it. So I shut up.
Oh wow. Okay, so I am going to give a shout out to a channel called CFG Streams. These guys are so much fun. I kind of found them by accident as well, but they stream a whole load of wrestling games. Like my first reaction when I first saw their streams was, oh, they do the exact same as me, but way better. Like it's so much fun. So yeah, definitely check them out. They play a whole load of wrestling games from throughout the years. In fact, I think one of the guys, Gabe, is he's actually with you guys at Love Wrestling, right?
That he is. He's helping us out with video game articles, and let me tell you, they're fantastic because as a guy who's not much of a video game guy, I like playing the video games he suggests. I think you can't ask for a better endorsement than that.
Another streamer who I think is fantastic is, again, I think a friend of the show, Project Ditz.
Yeah.
His streams are fantastic. He's taken a little break from streaming at the moment because he's just had a baby. But when he is streaming, like I take so much inspiration from his channel and what he does, and he's built up a great community. Yeah, and both of those who I've given the shout outs to, they're both really super supportive of me and my content. So yeah, massively appreciative of that as well. I mean, but there's so many talented people out there. I could be here all day listing the names off.
Yeah. Well, you and I both, that's been the nice thing about this show is it has not been hard for me to define a list of people that I like to have on here. And you, again, were one of those people who came first to mind. That's why I got you in the top 10. It's always nice when you make a list and it doesn't have to be like a ranked one. You're a top 10 guest, whether anybody likes it or not, my friend. It's been great having you on here. Thank you once again for the time. If people want to keep up with your Twitch streaming, your Twitter, your anything in between, how can they do so?
Oh, so it's RhystleMania on all platforms now. I've just done a
well
bit
done.
of I don't want to say rebrand because I don't really think I had like a brand in the first place, but I've just changed the name of everything. So yeah, that's RhystleMania on YouTube, Twitch. You can also follow me on Twitter if you want, but I pretty much just chat garbage on there. That's spelled RHYS, like you see in the little corner there. Yeah, people have great difficulty pronouncing and spelling that. I should maybe have thought of or maybe have a go at my parents for not thinking of an easier name.
Don't worry, I'm very, very lucky on my end, but even on Love's side of things, like you wouldn't believe what mental gymnastics people play, like because they don't believe the last name is actually Love. Like I've been introduced as Spencer Love, everything in between, because it can't just be Love, right? What is Love, right? Who's going to be the perfect 10, says plug in there. You're a perfect 10. Rhys is a perfect 10. Everybody in the comments is a perfect 10. Everybody who took the opportunity to support us, whether it's yourself, Rhys, for hopping on today, yourselves in the comments who threw comments our way, or anybody who is tuned into the replay, that all rhymed unintentionally, but maybe I'll track that back so I can remember that as an outro in the future. Thank you guys once again for supporting us here on Love Wrestling. If you want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest that we've got going on, head to Love Wrestling CA. Pretty well anywhere podcasts are played, videos are viewed, or thoughts are spewed all over social media. You'll find us there. The only difference is the website. Head to lovewrestling.ca. That's where you can find everything that we're doing in one fell swoop. And as I mentioned, if you guys are tuned in on Twitch, we're going to be heading over and supporting another great individual. I did an interview with this individual about a month and a half ago. Speedball Mike Bailey, an individual who, if rumors are correct, is rumored to be heading to the WWE sooner rather than later. So let's head over. Let's support a good Canadian. Let's support him on Twitch with, if he ends up going to the biggest promotion in the world, might not be long for this world. So thank you guys once again. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, here's the music. If you guys are on Twitch, you guys will see that start raid button popping up. We'll see you on the other sides, friends. Thanks for tuning in.